Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You are on the sidelines with the sideline guys for another NFL edition of the show. And you know, I'm pumped up because my guy has joined us once again. A legend on these OTS airwaves. The reason why we're here all together, the podfather himself, my guy, Derrick Myers. How you feeling, brother?
All is well, bro. All is well. How you feeling?
Yes, sir. It feels so good to pump up my guy because you know what? I remember the first time. Shout out. Listen, it's only right we shout out all of our OTS family. I remember the first time Dwayne gave me a real pump up your chest intro. And I was like, you know what? I got to get my shit together as a
Crazy.
commentator. I got to step
Yeah.
up my game. So shout out to Dwayne. These
Yes, sir.
intros, they for you. How about that? They're for
Yes,
you today.
sir.
So
I
Derek,
gotta get my game up too, bro. I gotta get my weight up. I don't do well at all. That
I,
last episode I
I
did
was gonna
with
say with Desmond,
Jamie,
right? Shout
bro. That last episode I did by myself was horrible.
Yeah, I had such a fun time editing that show because I was like, this is here, but these
Yeah,
lobs are a little rusty. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, bro. Because I was. It's been look, y'all don't even understand. This is my peak season at work. So like April and May, I'm kind of like frazzled. So he and I got on to record, and I was like hanging on by a thread, and I was trying to figure out how to do the intro. I couldn't do it. I messed up Shroom Bar's intro, and like everything was just messed up, man. It was horrible. I was glad with the discussion was good, but boy, oh boy, that was my bad.
Hey, it's just like riding a bike, ladies and gentlemen. When you
Ooh, that
get
was
back
rough.
on that saddle, it takes some time. You might you might rash up the cheeks, right? But guess what? You're on the grind once again. So once again, dope to have my guy back. Why don't you
Yes,
remind the
sir.
people where they can find you?
Yes, sir. You can follow me at Derrick underscore OTS. That's DERRICK, the black way to spell it.
Yes, sir. And you can find me at Negron MMA on Twitter as well as TikTok, Chris Negron underscore on Instagram. And of course, make sure you're following the brand at OTS Media Co. on all social media platforms, OTS Media on YouTube. So you never miss all of the dope stuff we got coming your way. We got another MMA edition coming down the pipe. We got some NFL shows coming this week too, discussing the draft, still handing out these draft grades before we get into the real thick of the off season in the NFL. So we got a lot of fun stuff coming up on the channel. Make sure you're locked in. And of course, make sure you support the people that support us. Today's episode is brought to you by the one and only Eat Shroom Bar. So if you use code OTS at eatshroombar.com, you'll get 30% off your purchase of some of the best protein bars on the market. And these are unique because they're made only with the most high quality mushrooms, right? We got reishi, we got turkey tail, cordyceps mushrooms, a nice blend that tastes good and gives you the boost you need after your workouts, before your workouts, or whenever you just need a little push to get through the rest of your day. Why don't you eat Shroom Bar and support the show? Code OTS on the website. But with all the pleasantries out of the way, I'm so hyped up, Derrick, because not only is the offseason in peak form in the NFL world, but we got some verdicts on a very important rule to you and your team. The Tush Push remains in 2025. And there was a lot of different ways we try to come up with different names, right? Because honestly, Tush Push is a little tired. It's gonna take some more brainstorming because we got a couple of things on the board, but
Yeah.
it's getting dangerous, Derek. We'll leave it
Yeah.
at that. But it's
It's getting rough.
the most important thing is that the tush push is here to stay. Are you surprised that this came up as a voting issue in the first place? And then also, are you excited to see it back in action next season?
So yeah, that's the thing. Because it was such a big issue, I think over the last year or two, I wasn't surprised that this was going to be voted on. My issue is with how the whole thing came about. You know, um, I'm be honest with you, bro. I, Society is getting soft, man. Society is getting soft because we're at the point now where there are teams, professional athletes, that instead of trying to draft players to stop a play or um, signing agents, free agents, or who like just building up your team to be able to play a specific style of football, instead of being able to go out there and try and practice how to stop a play, you don't want to do all that. You want to go and vote on getting the play banned. And my concern wasn't necessarily about this specific play because, to be honest with you, whether they're pushing or not, they were going to convert, right? Like, if you actually look at the play, although Goddard or Barkley might be pushing, it's not really like uh, it's not the primary thing of the play for me when I watch it. When I watch it, I'm looking at the line and the QB, right? Those are the guys that are mainly getting this thing going. It's just you have those guys in the back that do push, and hey, they might help, but like instead of trying to figure out a way to stop the play, you want to go get it banned. This is where I'm kind of confused. The Bills were, I believe, they ranked number 2 in the league this year, with running that play behind us. They didn't they utilize this multiple times last year?
Yep, in the game
Mhm.
against us in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, in the playoffs, and it didn't work for you, but you want to cite injury. Why are you afraid of the play? Why why
Why
is
would
it
you want to get it banned? Why don't you just stop doing it?
stop
Literally.
doing it? How about that? Or why are you doing it in the first place if you're worried about injury?
Mhm.
This is where I'm confused because there are other plays like the handing a ball off to the running back or whatever. Those plays have much more room for injury than a 1 to 2 yard push.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, get your weight up, bro. Teach a man how to squabble, man. Like,
This reminds me of like taking your ball and going home. Like I just feel like
yeah,
that's the energy this gives off for sure. So I
yeah. I'm like I'm disappointed from a competition standpoint. To be honest with you, the Eagles were gonna figure out a way to run some other play very similar to this, regardless of how this came. I wasn't concerned about the Eagles. My
Mhm.
concern was how does this affect other plays down the road, right? So other teams might figure out specific plays that they're really good at, that is almost impossible to stop. Are we banning those plays? Like I had a whole thing I wanted to do. I want to ban something from the NBA too. Let's ban the Lambo leap. Isn't that dangerous to the player jumping up into the stands, or isn't it dangerous, potentially dangerous for someone that's sitting in the stands that could get headbutted by a player or whatever? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think there's been actual injury on the Lambeau leap, but let's just go ahead and just and ban that. Does that not sound ridiculous to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Also
sounds
not the
stupid.
same, right? No competitive advantage to hitting the
Yeah,
Lambo leap. So, but I feel you. I feel you
but
100%.
like, come on, come on,
Yeah, treat it as the same as any other play, and how can you get mad at it? That's just not
bro. Like,
because you still, like you said, there's a 4 or 5 guys that need to get beat before the quarterback even is involved in that
yes,
in the discussion. So yeah,
yes. So I think the problem is there are teams that are not focusing on the line of scrimmage, right? Look at the Eagles' offensive line. Those are some big dudes, man.
yeah,
Those are big guys. They're built to run a play like that. They practice this play just as much as any other play in the playbook. So that's why they are really good at running this play. So if you want to get better at stopping a play, go stop it. Like this idea that we got to run to the commissioner to go get this changed. There's been no injuries on this play. You want to run to the commissioner and get this thing voted out because, like, these are the Green Bay Karens, man. These are the Green Bay Karens. I don't want to hear anything else about. In fact, we play these guys. I think week 10. I pray the very first play that they run the offense is this. I run it 4 times. Run it 4 times in a row just to be
You think
petty.
you could get a first down running for Tush Push? You think
Yeah,
so?
I think so. I think so. You see the way they defend it? We can get it. At least in 2 tries.
Yeah, and that's a team that their defense needs. It's weird because on paper you would think this thing makes sense, and it doesn't. It doesn't. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think the Packers have a lot to live up to this season. I don't think it was just them concerned, but either way, I think it's funny, like you said, right? All these things are getting called into consideration, and I feel like last year's discussion, right? Compare this to a hip drop. Like this, it's two different discussions, right? This is not even, in my opinion, on par with that ruling as far as being viable. So I see what you're saying, and I'm glad that it's gonna remain. And also, it's not the hardest thing to stop. Times two, also, it's coming, right? So why don't you pull a fucking Luvu? Just hop over the top, right? I take the top off. It's okay. We could do that too.
bro, get some defensive linemen that are built the right way.
Hey, the Giants, they listening. You know what I'm saying?
That's my
I don't know about
point.
the Cowboys, but the Giants
No,
are
the
listening.
Cowboys ain't stopping anything.
No, the offensive line is looking
Their offensive line
rebuilt.
looks good.
Rebuilt.
Their line looks good. Their defensive line though
Yeah,
is gonna be too small to stop that run, bro.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
you
That's
can't stop that play. You can't stop it. Look, let's just see. And look, shout out to the Ravens, man. It was the Ravens, Jets, and Lions that were the ones that were shown as teams that voted with the Eagles on this play. Oh, and the Patriots too. Like teams that just, you know what? Look, let's just go get it. Hard-nosed teams. I like that. So respect to those teams. I hope the Jets have a great season this year. I do. I hope they're the better team in New York. You know why? Because they're not running from the grind. Everybody else gonna run from the grind, bro. So yeah, yeah, I like that. I like that. Let's play ball, man. Play ball. Why are you trying to stop a play because you can't stop a play?
yeah. That sounds like a you problem.
That's a you problem. That ain't us.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure if it was working for you, you'd be real quiet. So
Everyone, bro, if everyone could do it, they do it. They would
yep.
do it. Did you see what Chris Jones did in the Super Bowl? His way of trying to stop the play would go sideways. I
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
know what's
he
so fun? I
tried.
don't know if you've ever heard this, right? But there's a freestyle. You could catch me sitting sideways. Bro, every time I think about that, I just hear that.
It's like, look, I can applaud the effort. I did not agree with that because that would have been a space for injury. But bro, just get out there on the field and practice. Get in the gym, get your weight up. See what we do.
Period. Let's fucking go.
Period.
And just like that, we move on to the actual ruling that I think fucking matters. But god damn it, it didn't get passed. It got pulled. We're gonna talk about it maybe next season. And now this is something that we've discussed many times on the show. But the idea is the issue of seeding on divisions in the playoff versus entire record. This allows a lot of historically shallow divisions, right, to find themselves with a home field playoff advantage when maybe the second team in that conference was nowhere near even sniffing the playoffs, while there's another division where the division winner obviously needed to do everything they had to secure the first seed. But then the second seed is still one of the top five best records in the league. But because they're just so happen to be a part of this division, they're a wild card team, and this is obviously what happened with the Lions and the Vikings last year. They had that big game at the end of the season to determine basically who was going to have the rematch at home, who was going to have the game at home,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we saw the way that one worked out. So I hope in the future that we actually have a discussion about this, not just in the NFL but across sports in general, because I think although the division rivalries are very important. And I think getting you home field advantage no matter what should be the plus to divisions. But I think the fact that you're seeing these guys twice and the fact that we have this history anyway is more than enough to keep divisions in a balanced place where people care about those divisional games. I think ultimately you got to consider every win. You got to go out there and consider every game a must win, because if not, it changes some of the way maybe a potential team in a weaker division just looks at competing in general, right? Why not I just hold off and get as low a seed as possible, as low as a record as possible? Because then maybe I'm not going to face the second seed. I'm going to face the first seed, right? So there's some gamesmanship here too, right? You could kind of be strategic on who you want to face. I'm sure in the future we'd like to prevent people from doing that. So let's have this discussion. Do you agree on me, Derek?
Yeah, like anything that puts more emphasis on division rivalries, I'm going to be for it. I I'm okay with the thought of reseeding um the playoff teams based on records. I'm okay with it um if it's done the right way. I don't know how they're going to do it or how they're proposing this is being done. I don't know if we're talking about conferences coming into play or not with it. I'm interested to see what they're going to do, but I love the idea of being able to reseed. But you know what? Again, my whole thought process, because yeah, the Vikings and Lions went through this whole thing last year. Um, I'm the type of person like let's just like play. I'm playing whoever's in front of me, man. Like it is what it is, and I think you should be prepared for whatever anyway. So
Mhm.
if it's going to be reseated, then who cares? And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be mad at the idea because if it's regardless of conference, like if we're talking about doing the exact same thing as the NBA is proposing, where it's 1 through 16, regardless of conference, if we're talking about that, you then have another element to playoffs where you have NFC, AFC teams going against each other. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be very interesting too. I wouldn't mind seeing some teams like you want to get the Chiefs up out of there quick. Cool. Let's see what happens. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm sure you wouldn't mind going against us or the Vikings or something like that in the playoffs on the route to Super Bowl. I think it'd be an interesting wrinkle to the playoffs. I'm not, initially I'm not of the mindset that it has to be done now, but I think it is something that would be very interesting to see if they are able to evolve it to become something that would be more competition because you also have which if we are going to go ahead and go to the 18 game seasons, I think you do need to implement another bye week in there somewhere, and it would be interesting to see if they're gonna do that, how place that where, and I would assume that they're not gonna work on these proposals about seating until that's implemented. I would assume that's going to be a part of it, and then also the idea of having, because Roger Goodell came out and said that they are looking to have 16 international games, so one every week.
Yeah.
How does that play into it? You know what I'm saying? So I think the bye week and the international game is going to have to be something that they figure out before they do this, because I think that rest is going to come into place somewhere.
That's a great shout too, especially in consideration with the Western teams on the Western Hemisphere of the U.S. They already have some of the highest flight miles anyway, right? And you're adding all
Yeah,
this in.
yeah,
It's another consideration that, in theory, right, makes things a little less fair, right? Because there's certain teams, like I believe the Bengals only travel a total of like 8,000 miles throughout the whole 2025, while there's some teams that are in almost 30,000 miles as far as how far they're traveling. That's a very big difference, right? And especially when you factor in a Thursday night game here and a Monday night game here,
right,
now there's more potential for jet lag and all these other factors to be affecting
right,
these games as well. Which in a weak structure for a schedule, you'd think that wouldn't be an issue.
right.
Um, and obviously, we've seen leagues like the NBA; they're traveling a lot often too. A lot of
Hmm.
the times across the country as well. But then they also have days in between, right? So it's a
Hmm.
little different situation. So I'm
Yeah,
interested to see, like you said, how they decide to do this. Me personally, I would say don't touch the conferences. I think
Yeah.
Although in theory, I liked, especially originally for the NBA side of it, like, hey, some of these West teams aren't getting a fair shake. I think now with the plan, that's less so the case, right? Because
Okay.
if you're close enough, now you could say that you're the actual team that's actually trying to compete, right? Like
Right.
the
Right.
Mavs were there, and then somehow they ended up with the number one fucking pick, which is also hilarious. But the team typically in that spot, right? They're trying to compete still, but they're just
Hmm.
outside looking in because of how deep the division is. They're getting that chance now with the play, and I think that's good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I can't imagine me personally just a world where on the NFL side of it, you can end up getting picked off because then it literally changes the way. Like, there's no structure as far as AFC versus NFC. There's nothing
Hmm.
matters besides your regular season schedule. So it's
Hmm.
like, hey, I might not see these guys until playoff time, but hey, maybe that could be a great equalizer, right? So maybe the more we talk about this,
Yeah.
I do get talked on. But right now, I would say leave it as it is, just for the sake of keeping AFC and NFC relevant.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I could see the case. I could see the case.
The only reason I'm saying that too is because then it's also it'd be also a case where like, and I'm all for leaving AFC NFC separate. I'm all for it, but just devil's advocate, think about it like this: what would it have been like if the Eagles and Lions faced off in the Super Bowl this year? You see what I'm saying? Like
Mhm,
that's where I'm kind of thinking about it too, because excuse me, if we're gonna go so far off what we've been doing, go all the way. Like let's go all the way. Let's see how far we can go with this. I think that's part of it. I would be intrigued by it, but I'm with you. I like having the conferences there. So if you're just reseeding by conference, I'm definitely fine with that. I don't have a problem with
mhm,
that at all. But it would be intriguing to see how that would play out, to see who's the actual number one team,
mhm.
regardless of conference.
I
And
think it's
then,
only fair. I'm sorry to cut you off here. I'm
yeah,
just brainstorming, right? I
yeah,
think it's
yeah,
only fair if they're going to do the reseeding within the conference that you only limit it to the bottom fourth division winner, right?
yes,
So you'll
yes,
have one,
yeah,
two, three.
yeah,
They have tiebreakers for whatever head-to-head games, so that in the case they have the same record, we could get it figured out. But I think those top three playoff teams that won their division, as far as their record, maybe they're untouched. And
yeah.
then it just comes down to the records of that
The
fourth
other one,
team.
yeah,
Because I can't really imagine a scenario where a second, like a team, how do I explain this? Let's say we rank the division winners by the amount of wins they had. I can't imagine a scenario with a third ranked team is underneath a wild card team. Like,
right, right, right,
I
right.
guess in theory that did happen with the Lions and the Vikings last year, but that's such an anomaly anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't
Um,
happen.
yeah, so I think maybe
Yeah,
if this thing continues to be something to look for in the future, I think especially with your division, right, with the Commanders becoming a contender, right? My division, a historically deep one as well.
hmm,
Let's see, let's monitor this situation.
yeah,
But I like that it's getting talked about because I think there could be some benefit for especially the South, right? AFC and
yeah,
NFC, right?
yeah, yeah.
Let's fix these divisions by making it more fair across the board.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it also, if you, this is gonna be way off topic. Just don't, let's not go down this whole path. I just want to throw this out there. If you've played around with divisions as well, maybe making it to where we're redoing certain divisions to be closer together instead of so far apart with some of them, because it doesn't make sense that the Eagles and Cowboys are in the same division, but the Eagles, Giants, and Commanders are within the same region. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yep.
Like that part of it, I've always kind of like had a. It's always been kind of weird, but
Like, why is Miami included in the AFC East? It makes no
yeah,
sense. Yeah.
yeah. Like so I don't want to. I don't want them to like redo everything like that. But I think that'd be an interesting conversation, though.
Yeah, you could almost consider picking it up just based on that. But then that makes a
Yeah,
big shift too.
yeah, yeah,
So there's
yeah.
a lot of things that needs to be considered here. But I think it's only right we move on to a fun discussion that's probably going to take a little longer, right? Let's talk about relevant free agents here and just give a
Sure.
little brief idea of what we think of the player and whether or not we think they end up somewhere. I think there's only one quarterback that's worth talking about, and that's your guy, Carson Wentz. I mean, I'm joking. I'm joking. Aaron Rodgers, the Tower of Ayahuasca Power. I think obviously we've talked about this guy a lot on this show. I think you're much lower on him than I am. But I still think he ends up on a team this year. And I think the only real players, especially after Derek Carr's retirement, in my mind, are the Saints and the Steelers, right? I think the Steelers,
Mhm.
both of these teams address quarterback in a major way. The Saints more so in this draft, getting Tyler Show, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
While on the other hand, obviously the Steelers got Will Howard with a much later pick. Um, I don't look at honestly either of those guys as a day one starter. So I
Yeah.
got to ask you, Derek, do you think that A Rod ends up on one of those teams, or should he get the free agent Shador Sanders treatment and just get forced out of the NFL?
Hey, I do believe he'll be on a team this year. I don't think he's retiring. I want to throw out a wild card as well of another team that's very possible, depending on what happens. Mm, I'd say through training camp, through the beginning of the year, Miami, I think would be intriguing because I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I don't know what the future is for Tua, right? If they get off to a slow start, what's the viewpoint on perspective on his long term availability there? So I would almost throw them in as a wild card or a dark horse to get Aaron Rodgers. But right now, it looks like the Steelers are going to be the ones that do. Because I can't imagine that he would sign up for the show going on in New Orleans right now. If
Yeah.
you're Aaron Rodgers, what is he like 40, 42, something like that?
Mhm.
I would assume you want to be on a team that has a very good possibility of pushing into the playoffs and making some noise. It would make sense to go there
Yeah. And I
over New
also
Orleans.
think it's a very much so Steelers move, right? Let's
It
get this
is, yeah,
guy that everyone is looking at like a cast off because of their behavioral issues. And hey,
yeah,
let's make sure this guy gets it done for us. I think he could definitely do that for them. I
yeah,
mean, this
yeah,
is a team that carted off the ghost of Ben Roethlisberger for like 3 years, and was
yeah,
still were very competitive in a way that didn't make sense for the production they were getting at quarterback. So
yeah.
I definitely could see this working for them, and that's the team I only really believe in because of the same thing you said. I think that's the only team that matches up timeline wise. I think the
Hmm.
Saints are okay with hitting the rebuild, especially because of the way Chris Olave's career has planned out so far since drafting him with a very high slot. I think they look at it like, hey, that was us going young and trying to hit the reset button. We're going to have to do that here again, especially
Yeah,
after Derek Carr's retirement. So I think it's only right timeline. It all works out, but I think it's also telling that it hasn't happened yet. So would I be
yeah, yeah,
surprised if he doesn't end up anywhere? No, but I'm leaning with the Steelers for sure.
yeah,
Yep. We move on to the running backs, and this is where things actually get fun, right? Quarterback was not fun.
yeah,
There's a lot of names on here that I think are wild cards. I'm only going to really talk about three of them. Let's start with one of my favorite guys, a very young guy compared to the way he is perceived. J.K. Dobbins had
yeah,
a really good comeback season last year for the Chargers and ultimately didn't get picked up. They ended up drafting a Marion Hampton as well as signing Najee Harris. So they got a brand new backfield over there in LA. I think he's going to be, in my opinion, the catch of free agency. Like whoever
hmm,
gets this guy, I'm surprised he hasn't got signed anywhere yet, but I thought he had a lot to give last season. And I think just given all of his injury history as well, I know he's a former Raven, so I know this guy more intimately than others. And trust me, I've been burned by this guy more times than anybody else, especially with season-ending injuries. But when the player's on the field, man, he is explosive and has really, really good eyes. And because of his 10-yard split, like once he's in a good spot and he already got past the first defender he really needed to read, that's night night. And every team could benefit from having a guy like that. I don't think he's your four down running back necessarily, but any team I think could benefit from getting him in committee. You know what? If I'm the Ravens, let's get this guy back. Who do you think ends up getting him though?
I think the Ravens make a ton of sense. Um, However, as much as I don't want to say this, I think the Cowboys make a ton of sense as well. And then the Commanders, because I don't know, you really can't speak on to Austin Eckler's availability too much. I think he held up pretty well this past season, but just kind of like looking at his past and forecasting, you know, I don't know. I
Mhm.
would say they could be a good team as well to get him. But yeah, I think the Ravens make sense because that's just, you guys already had him. You know what you can do with him. And running behind Derrick Henry would be, that'd be crazy. I ain't gonna lie. That'd be pretty insane.
And you
Um,
got to think he's not on a team right now that is a cheap contract. You got to
right,
think.
right. And then Vegas makes sense too,
Yep.
as a number two option. I mean, I don't, I would,
Genty is nasty. Yeah.
that would be, yeah. I would say he would, any team he goes to, he's like going to be a number two option. At least if
Yeah.
you're talking about a contender. Um, but I think Vegas would be interesting in the sense that you have Genty, you already know he is going to be the number one. I don't think there's really any question about it. But pairing him with Genty would be pretty interesting.
You know, it's another good show. I think if I'm the Giants, why not? Like, I don't think like even 2 years ago, you signed Singletary, and
Yeah,
obviously Tyrone Tracy had a nice year for you guys last year, but obviously showed what you think drafting Cam Scatterboo. They already got a nice 1-2 punch. Why not?
yeah,
Like he's very different from those guys, and I
yeah,
think he'll offer something significant there too. You're already kind of going by committee, but it'll also free up, in my opinion, Tyrone Tracy to be a little bit more of that wide receiver for them that
yeah,
he originally was earlier on in his career as well. So that's something
yeah,
that they could think about.
yeah,
I agree with you though. I was trying to think of the case like who could actually pick him up as a number one option. That doesn't exist, especially after this deep running back class of a draft we just had.
yeah. Um, I the Cowboys are the ones that really come to mind though, mainly because they do have a running back committee right now,
And
and
it's a
the
whole lot of committees. Yeah,
it's a
it's
whole
a
lot of committees, yeah. And to be honest with you, I think like I love Miles Sanders, but he's not playing he's not playing full season. That's just not happening. And I don't know, man. I think that'd be interesting to see him with Dak.
Mhm.
Look, Cowboys have no excuse right now, so you haven't
Sign
really.
everyone. Everyone we talk about at the running back, sign all of
Yeah,
them.
yeah. I like. I think it'd be interesting to see what if they were able to get him, what they would be able to do. Because their offense, if you got J.K. Dobbins, their offense would be absolutely insane. Um, I'd be intrigued. I'd be intrigued, honestly.
Now we move to a name that I thought very random, but I think still deserves to be on an NFL roster. Somebody that got forgotten in New Orleans. We got Jamal Williams, a free agent
Oh,
running back. Somebody that's fell into obscurity after leaving the Lions a couple years back.
yeah,
I remember, right? We held him in very high regard when he
yeah,
made that move, and then kind of got lost in the shuffle behind two guys over there in New Orleans, guys that aren't really looked at as prime running backs in today's landscape anyway, right? So when you're
yeah,
getting beat
yeah,
out by two of those guys, it's a tough position to be in. But I think he still could have a lot of tread for anybody there. A lot of the teams we mentioned already that need running back depth. Would you
hmm.
take a flyer on the biggest anime fan in the league, Jamal Williams?
You know what? You know who comes to mind for him too? The Bears.
Oh, yeah, that's a good shout.
The Bears. If you pair him with DeAndre Swift, like
We saw how that went. Yeah.
yeah, I think that'd be intriguing. I think that'd be intriguing. I mean, the Bears to me, they have the foundation I think to build on right now.
Mhm.
So why not take a flyer on them?
Yeah, I love that poll. That was a great one.
Yeah.
and nostalgic as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, this is the biggest running back name of the three that we have discussed, the most historic figure, but also the biggest question marks among the three. We have Nick Chubb, a free agent, just dropped another video. I don't know if you saw it too. Looks fucking phenomenal, right?
Nah.
Look,
Nah.
looks electric. Please look it up and tap in, right? Tune in, whatever you're gonna call it.
Yeah.
Watch that shit because that guy looks like he's ready to be a number one running back.
Yeah.
Just say it.
Well, man, who who does Cleveland have at running back right now?
So they just drafted Quinshawn Judkins as well as Dylan Sampson, two guys that
Okay.
I'm particularly high on as far as their futures in the league. But they also have Jerome Ford still there.
Jerome
I
Ford.
think
That's who it
they
is. Yeah.
by drafting those two guys, I think it's pretty safe to say he's not going to be coming back to the Browns.
Yeah.
Which, if I'm the Browns, I understand. Right, this guy has
Yeah.
been through so much as well, and obviously that was such a freak injury, and they saw him return from it initially. Right, so
Hmm.
I think there is something though to having it all season. It doesn't hurt to sign this guy on a cheap contract.
Oh yeah. Nah. Steelers would be interesting.
That's a good
Steelers would be
show.
really interesting.
Oh man, Caleb Johnson learning from
Yeah.
fucking Nick Chubb. Oh
Yeah.
man.
That'd be interesting. I don't know. I think you got them. I don't even know who Miami has right now. I feel like for some reason the last 2 months it feels like there's been such a great shuffle
Mhm.
on these rosters. I don't even remember who Miami has down there right now,
So
but
they have Achan, and they also drafted, I believe, two different guys the last 2 years. So they Jalen Wright is the one from last season. So they have a really young backfield, but their backfield isn't really like a running backfield. It's kind of like a
yeah,
wide receiver backfield. So I
yeah,
like that pull.
that would be a good one right there. Especially if you like to me again. I think this year is the final look on what this current roster is gonna look like anyway. Like
Mhm.
if you can't get it done with Tua and Hill, like you got to move on because you can't waste any more time. Just trying to make sure on a wish and a prayer these guys they're gonna pull through for you. So that would be a very interesting wrinkle, I think. Um, you know, another one would be pretty interesting would be the Chiefs.
Yeah, I was just about to say that too.
That'd be pretty interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, I think you would argue him over, I mean, Hunt over him as well,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
at this stage at least, but you
yeah,
never know, right? When at their peaks, it was clear who the real winner of those two was. So
yeah. It was, but I
we're no
mean,
longer there, man.
I think they're by committee too.
Oh,
Excuse me.
100%. I
So
won't be surprised though if Pacheco looks really good this season
he does.
after
He
coming
does.
back. After
Yeah.
coming back from the injury stuff, because he looked shitty last year for sure.
Yeah. I would expect he does.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't think of any other team that would
Yep.
make
A
sense
lot
right
of
now.
play all the other teams we discussed. So
Yeah.
good luck, you guys. The running backs needed. We move on to the wide receivers. I think there's only three real relevant names here. Let's start at the bottom. We got Gabe Davis, just got released from the Jaguars. Now, this is somebody who perennial number two, right? Perennial. So not a lot of, I mean, especially because, funny enough, I just really believe this draft, although it has been criticized by a lot of people saying, hey, it doesn't have the marquee guys on offense. I think we got a lot of guys that are going to be contributors in this number two wide receiver role. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be hard to find a team for Gabe Green, almost, but Gabe Davis, excuse me. I'm gonna fish a little bit here, right? I'm gonna
Okay.
dig because I was really thinking hard about this. I'm like, you know what? There's only one real team that I think could benefit from having a guy like Gabe Davis, and it's sneaky, a team that just signed a very similar guy in Mike Williams. I think the Chargers could benefit from
Ooh.
having Gabe Davis in
Yeah.
this role because they wanted this big body guy to be able to complement what they have going on, especially with Lad McConkey's breakout last season. You
Hmm.
wanna you wanna be able to free up that side of the field. So why not stretch it with Gabe Davis?
I like that. I like that. Vegas. I don't even know who their number one receiver is right now. Is it still
Great
Jacoby
question.
Myers?
Yep.
That might not be a bad option.
Mhm.
I Bills as well. Why not give it a go? Familiarity there. And guess what? Dallas again. Like, I actually think Dallas doesn't have much of an excuse, bro.
Nope.
Why not try and get someone cheap, excuse me, that can come in, be your number three, and make sure you have that support right there.
Yep. You almost have to because you didn't draft the guy, so you
You
might as
didn't.
well.
You didn't. So why not see how that goes? Kick the tires on Davis and see what transpires.
I love that you say this because I think it's only right that we talk about a return since we're going to talk about this guy anyway.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper, a free
Yeah.
agent. Do you
Yeah.
think the Cowboys all I think they're more willing to make that move than the Gabe Davis move.
I think they'd be willing to do it as well.
Mhm.
If you're Amari, would you be willing to do it?
That's a good question. I think if you're on the outside looking in, you'd rather play than not, right? But I think
Right.
that will probably be destination zero, right? We need
Yeah.
to get no other offers.
Yeah. Yeah. That needs to be like, okay, you know what? I want to play this year. Nobody else biting. I'll go ahead and bite the bullet and go. But
Mhm.
I would think that would be a good option too, for sure. Hmm.
Yeah,
Amari, I
you
think
could
Amari would
argue
be
too that
intriguing.
Gabe Davis. I know we skipped over him and we moved on to Amari Cooper started to jump back, but
Yeah,
in the same situation, right, with the Cowboys, you could argue Gabe Davis might reunite with Buffalo too. I think that's
that
another good
yeah, I
spot.
I I think both of them could make sense to go back to old teams,
Mhm.
which is that'd be intriguing. That'd be an intriguing storyline in and of itself. But
I
I
think the Raiders are the best shout though. They
the
need to take
Raiders,
a swing at one of these guys at being their best guy. And I think if
yeah,
there's anyone of the two we talked about that could probably do that for you, it's Amari Cooper.
yeah. I think that makes sense. And then I think Minnesota could use someone too.
Mhm.
Um, just just see what you can throw out there. I wouldn't be mad at that just to see,
Yeah,
cheap option what could stick.
for sure. Now, the final big name wide receiver on the market still is Keenan Allen after
Mm,
coming off of a pedestrian, according to his standards, season with the Bears last year, given all their offensive line woes. I think if he would have stood there, he would have produced a little bit more,
yeah,
but made sense that they would move on from him at that spot with all the guys they drafted, et cetera, et cetera. So, how do we feel about Keenan Allen, the producer? I think, interestingly enough, he could still be a productive player.
mhm,
I just think I don't think his decline as a player coincided with um, the decline of the Bears. Like I feel like
yeah,
he is still this productive player that can go out there and really help a quarterback in being that safety valve. That hey, you know what? None of these routes are looking open, but I know at least Keenan Allen's going to give it a shot if I throw it up there. So I
yeah.
think a lot of teams could benefit from having him.
I agree too, and that's why I think I'm gonna go ahead and say go back to that old thing. Why not go back to the Chargers?
Yeah, for real.
Why not? I think like Justin Herbert. I think he's also in that same boat where this is kind of like, hey, you got to do something this year.
Mhm.
In the playoffs. I think that's his whole thing. Why not see if you can get Keenan Allen to just be there and be that safety valve, like you said,
Mhm.
and see what happens in the playoffs. I think that would be a good look, and they know each other already, so why not?
Yep, exactly. So we move on from the offensive side of the ball here because it's only right we get some defensive
Yes, sir.
free agents as well. I think this is the most stacked of all the free agents we have discussed so far.
Yeah,
Let's start on the edge with Von Miller. I think there's been some discussions of my Ravens getting him. I love that pairing. I think it fits perfectly with what we need. I mean, just the fact that we've been able to get this much from out of Kyle Van Noy. If we could get Von Miller, I think that'll be an awesome addition to that room. But who do you like for Von Miller? Because I think he needs to be at a contender.
I do too. I think the Ravens would make a lot of sense. Here's where I push back though. If I'm at that age, I want a warmer climate. So why not the Chargers as well? Again, um, see, I would say Chargers or Rams might make a lot of sense. Because especially with the Rams, I don't think he'd have to do a lot over there.
Mhm.
You know
That's a
that
good show.
their defense is already really nice, and he'd just be like a extra piece, I think, to just be there for depth. I like you're already set. Why not just go for depth and knowledge?
Another wild card here too is if you want to pay the guy. Like I think there's a team that has a shot to pay the guy, and I
Hmm.
think it'll work as far as development and all the other guys they just drafted. Atlanta, right? Over across
Yeah,
the road from you. I think that'll be a good spot for him to land too. But the
yeah,
issue is for Von Miller at this stage, it's so clear what your role is here, right? Like
hmm,
you need to be getting paid to basically say, "Hey, we're probably not going to be winning a ring, but I'm going to help this team probably make that next step in the next couple of years."
right, right. Coaching up some players, young players. I think I like that. I like that. Atlanta makes a lot of sense. Yeah, yeah.
Now we move on in this stacked class to another name that I think needs to end up somewhere. Jadavion Clowney played last season with the Panthers
Hmm.
after obviously having a pretty successful season with my Ravens. I think he ends up somewhere, and I think it stays in the division, right? Cincinnati. Got to figure something
Ooh,
out. Got to figure something
yeah,
out. Why
yeah.
not get Jadavion on the roster?
Ooh, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That makes. I mean, well, it makes sense.
For them. Yeah, for
For
them.
them, yeah. It wouldn't make a ton of sense because, but hey, I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. I also think he needs to go to a warm climate as well. But yeah, I think that that makes a ton of sense too. Tampa's got to get in on some of these free agents, man. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
For real. For
yeah,
real. Okay, so our final big name free agent of this list, we got Matt Judon, somebody that I've been just absolutely shocked. The disrespect
yeah,
this man has got. When you consider, right, the Falcons traded, what was it, a fifth pick for him,
yeah. I think
fourth
so.
pick or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, this the most shocking, if you ask me, might have something to do with some of his takes on mac and cheese and other things that we've talked beaten to death out of on this show. So
Mhm.
I think why not once again reunited and it feels so good. Let's go. Come back. Let's do it. Let's do
Oh,
it.
yeah. I like. I'm not mad at that idea. Um, let's see. You just said them. The Bengals. That might not be a bad move either for them. I think the Bengals, Houston could be fun.
Mhm,
And obviously, we don't know. We're not looking at the cap space, so I can't really, forecast too well.
mhm.
But those would be good fits. Those would be really good fits.
Yes, sir. Now we move on to I think the only relevant linebacker that I want to include in this
Mm,
list. We got Kaiser White,
yeah.
a free agent, still available. I think there's a lot of different places he could go. I'll let you lead the dance because I've been greedy. I've been hogging it over here, Derek.
Don't
Where would you
worry.
like to see Kaiser White go in free agency?
So the Titans might be a good shot for them for him.
Mhm.
Um,
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
yeah, I think. To be honest with you, I think the Titans are in a position to build well.
Mhm.
I think they have some of the pieces that they would need to continue that build. But he might be someone that would be an intriguing piece to add to that team to see what they can actually do. What 2 3 years from now?
Mhm.
I wouldn't be mad at that one.
Yeah, man. And you know, it's so funny. It's actually in the rumor mill that the Titans are looking at because they're.
Oh,
I think I another name that might fit too, which is funny because we mentioned all this too. Why not? Why not go to Philly? I think it could work.
hey, listen. That defense is already crazy. Why not continue to add to it?
Yeah.
I'm with it. I'm with
Yes,
it.
sir. Hey, I
Yeah,
love it. I love it. We'll
I'm with
see
it.
what comes of it. But that's a player that I think Arizona could have really benefited from keeping. I'm kind of surprised that they're in this position. But hey, I guess
Yeah,
maybe you're saying, hey, what we have on the front can make up for what we have on the back end. But
yeah,
you
and
need both
and
to play in harmony, if you ask me.
yeah, and also adding Josh Sweat. I'm pretty sure that that's part of it too. Trying to You got that speed on the outside, so it's kind of like let's take a flyer and then see what happens without him.
Yep.
Um, yeah, but Arizona made sense to stay. Yeah,
Yeah, literally though. All right,
yeah,
our final two free agents. We're going a cornerback and then we're going to safety. We got Asante Samuel Jr., the free agent cornerback. This was really the most shocking to me considering how young of a player he is. I think
yeah,
it makes sense though, I would say production-wise, coming off of a really down year. In a situation where you could argue, hey, it didn't really matter that much, but when you get exposed like that, right, at the
yeah,
final game,
yeah.
everything just becomes harder to run away from, which I think also may also be why J.K. Dobbins is in the situation he's in as well.
Hmm.
When it's the last impression sometimes leaves that taste in your mouth. No pause. So
Yeah,
I'm going to say he ends up somewhere though, and doesn't. I hope he ends up somewhere where he doesn't need to be that guy, especially initially. And
yeah,
what comes to mind on that end, why not go to Jacksonville, right? You're going to end up in a place where you're also still in hot weather, and you could also come in and really produce for them early as far as their needs. So why not?
yeah. Jacksonville makes a ton of sense. I would even say Tampa Bay makes a ton of sense too. I agree. He doesn't need to be the number one option. That's why I don't want him in Philly.
Yep.
Because no, I would be cool with him being a depth piece, but yeah,
Mhm.
nah. You already have Eli Ricks there with Quinyon Mitchell.
Yep.
I think we're okay there at that spot. So
Yeah.
not
More
necessary.
than okay, you would
Yeah,
say.
yeah, not a necessary need. So we're
So
good.
on our safeties, I think there's a couple names here which are actually pretty fun, but obviously Justin Simmons, the most prominent, the name that needs to go somewhere. God damn it.
Yeah,
Um, I think yeah, we talked about this. I think the Eagles make a lot of sense. I think it's easy for us to slot these guys into our teams, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I think a lot of teams could benefit. I think a sneaky good team could also be the Patriots. I think to have his veteran
Ooh,
leadership in that back end of that
ooh.
defense really could benefit a lot for them, especially with getting our guy back in, right? Getting our why am I forgetting his name? Can you help me here? Uh,
Christian Gonzalez.
oh yeah, that's one of the guys he's definitely gonna be helping out. But what is their coach's name?
Oh, Vrabel.
Vrabel. There we
Yeah,
go. Hey,
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
hey, hey, we
I
got
think you're
it. We
talking about
got it.
defense. Yeah, my bad.
Thank you. No, you're good. You're good. Thank you,
Yeah,
bro. So yeah, I like that fit a lot. Any other names come to mind for you?
bro. Philly is the only one that makes sense to me. I like, no lie. That's the only team that makes sense for this guy, and I would say the only reason why he hasn't signed yet is because he's still waiting for oh my god, what's the name of that? Still waiting for the new league calendar, I believe, to flip over.
Hmm.
So by that time, once you have more understanding of what your cap space looks like and all that stuff, I'm assuming he'll sign soon after. So
Yes,
yeah,
sir. So that wraps up our free agent discussion. I think the defensive side of the ball is a lot richer than the offensive side of the ball, which
yes,
in today's NFL makes a lot of sense, right? So let's get these guys on some rosters. Let's round out these defenses and let's look forward to the start of the season. Thank you so much for locking in with us. We're excited to look forward to what comes of the NFL season and the off season. But until next time, we'll catch you. Peace.